you'll need your spiral journal. We've just finished reading chapter 5 in Anne's history. And the first thing that I want to go over is the fact that I've asked you to get another example of personification. I must confess I was thinking we were going to learn a little bit of other information in this chapter that would have been a really good example of personification. However, I directed you to the paragraph on 34 here, and I said there probably was another bit of description that would work. So the closest you can come to anything here that would be descriptive is comparing the pebbles with ocean jewels. Once I got to thinking about it and looking at it closer, though, stop and think. Ocean jewels are not people, they're things. So that wouldn't be personification. Beyond it lay the sea, shimmering and blue. Shimmering just talks about how it looks to your eyes. Well, that's not really personification. What about the gulls with their pinions flashing? Nope, that just tells you how it looks. So, if you think you had found another example of personification in that paragraph, check it with me so I can tell others about it. But for now, I'm going to say erase. Anything else that you had written in here, this idea of the scrub firs having unbroken spirits from long years of tussle with the wind, that is personification. But we're going to have to wait until chapter 8 to find another good example of personification. Why is that? Well, the author now is really focused more on the action, following this problem of Matthew and Marilla Cuthbert having an orphan delivered to them that is not what they had anticipated. So what we are going to do is you are going to start on the next page. Make sure it's on the left-hand side of a page. You are going to set this up so that we can begin summarizing each chapter as we go along. That way in January, when you come back, we will be able to look through these pages and say, oh yes, that's what has happened so far in the book. On your note card this time, I want you to not just write the word summary, but I want you to be able to find this spot in your spiral journal very easily. So I want you to have the note card sticking out, kind of like a bookmark. And I want you to have Summarizing Anne written on that tab. If you don't have a note card, you can just do it on a regular piece of paper. If you want to make the paper stronger, you could put a little bit of tape on both sides of it, but I wouldn't suggest doing that until you have it entirely filled out. So, what is a summary? You'll notice also that with the spiral journal, the note card goes off the edge. I did this myself first. I had it taped down before I had this written on. You should do the writing before you tape it into the folder so that you're not trying to write on the spiral. Now, what is a summary? A summary is a short retelling that only includes the important parts. You leave out the details that aren't really important in the story. Specifically for stories, because you can summarize facts as well. You just pick out the facts that match the main ideas of the paragraph, that match the headings, if there happen to be headings. For stories, you're looking for the important action. You want the action to come from the beginning and the middle and the end. And yes, I want you to copy down this summary of Poppy. You'll notice there are 1, 2, 3 sentences. Why? Because I need the important action from the beginning, the important action from the middle, and the important action from the end. And you will see I left out a lot of the story of Poppy. What did I decide was important to summarize Poppy? Achex won't let Poppy's family move. That's the important part of the beginning. In the middle, Poppy travels to new house to find out why Akax refused the move. That's her whole trip through Dimwood. I didn't even talk about meeting Aerith. I didn't even talk about the beginning where Ragweed gets eaten. If we want to focus on the important parts, the action from the beginning, middle, and end, we have to leave things out. The ending part, after a fight, comma, Akax dies and Poppy's family can move. Also on this page, at the top here, you need to remind yourself, this is what we'll focus on at the end of each chapter that we do in Anne now, up through December 22nd. So you need to look at who did what in that chapter. These chapters were written for magazines to be published one chapter at a time. So the author really does a good job of having a beginning, a middle, and an ending with action in each chapter. You then need to set yourself up a chart. The title, Anne of Green Gables, it's the title of a book. It must be capitalized and underlined. Each section, we're going to have the chapters. Usually we'll have the chapter titles. The important characters, the main characters in that chapter, and then our summary. Our summary will include the important action from the beginning, the middle, and the end of the chapter. Now, on this very first one, we're actually going to summarize chapters 1 through 4. So as I turn it to right, I'll try to keep it straight on the screen. There we go. It's fairly straight for you. This will be chapters 1 through 4. And I'm going to put together the chapter titles here so we will not use quotation marks, which is what you do when you have the exact chapter titles. So we are going to put these together and say, Mrs. Lynde, remember that was the nosy neighbor in the beginning, comma, Matthew, comma, and Marilla are surprised. See if I can write it small enough to fit. Ha! Made it fit. So this is chapter 1 through 4. These are not the exact titles, but you do need to have this written down in the chapter column. Who were the main characters? Well, we have Matthew, and we have Marilla, and you'll notice I'm putting these close to the left. I want to write a little bit of information about them in this right-hand spot. I want to show that they are brother, but I'll shorten it, and sister. So making sure we know the relationship of those two main characters. And then the other main character is Anne. You could argue Mrs. Lynde is important in chapter 1, but since we're summarizing chapters 1 through 4, she's not important enough because she's not included in all 4 of the chapters. For my summary, I need important actions from the beginning, the middle, and the end of this whole section. So here we go. Matthew and Marilla sent word to adopt an orphan boy. Sending word meaning they didn't call somebody, they didn't send a letter, they just sent word to adopt. But Miss Yoder, you're going over that margin. Yep. In this case, we're going to fill it from left to right so that we have enough space and use up almost the entire page. Orphan boy. Might want to underline the boy part, right? Why? To help on the farm. Now, you could argue that this is not as important to the action. The reason I included it is because this will be the reason that Marilla decides we cannot keep this girl because we won't have anybody to help on the farm. So that does feed into the important action as we go along, so that's why I decided to put that in. All right, so that's sort of the beginning. By the middle, oops, we know that a talkative comma, imaginative. So I'm describing her a little bit because these are important. We learn about how talkative she is and how imaginative she is by Anne's actions. So that's why I include that. A talkative, imaginative, red-head, girl is sent. Finally, for the end, do they keep her? Marilla plans to send her back. Now, the headings of these columns need to stand out. I bubbled them in. You need to leave an entirely blank line straight across so that it's really easy to see that we have finished up with one chapter and gone on to chapter 5, which is what we're going to do next. So we've got now chapter 5, and here we are going to use the exact title, quotation marks, because it's only a chapter, not the whole book. Anne, apostrophe S, because the history belongs to Anne. Make sure you are spelling things correctly since you get to copy them. Who were the important characters in the chapter we just listened to? There were only two of them, Marilla and Anne. See how I put them on separate lines so I didn't have to smush? Please do so. The summary now. What was the important action from the beginning, middle, and end of the chapter? Well, I'm going to sort of put the beginning and middle and end all in one sentence this time. So see if you can find where we sort of move from the beginning to the middle and then the end of this chapter. On the trip, taking her back, comma, because I started with a preposition, so I need a comma as I get ready to start the main part of the sentence. Anne tells, finally get to the action. Why would I include on the trip taking her back? That's the important action in the beginning. Marilla is taking Anne back. Now we switch to the middle. Anne tells Marilla she never knew her parents, and so this is sort of the middle. Anne tells Marilla she never knew her parents. As we get to the end, not only did Anne not know her parents, we also know she worked hard and didn't even get to go to school, not even virtually. Anne didn't get to go to school much at all. She worked hard for two poor families who, I'm going to use quotation marks here, took her in. I could say she finally spent 4 months in an orphanage, but that's not really as important in Anne's history. The author really spent the most time describing for you what Anne's life was like working for those two families. Again, we need to leave an entirely blank line to show that we are done summarizing chapter 5. It will be, I can speak English yet. It will be very important that you make sure that you are keeping up with these summaries each day as we do them. Sending me a photograph of the summary each day would be a very good idea. You will need this information all filled out when you come back. If not, you will be spending some recess time when we are back face to face, and you could be out playing with your friends. You would instead be spending recess time getting this in place. So make use of your time now when you're at home and can't see your friends, so that when we do get back in January, you can go outside and play. Hope you're having fun getting ready for Christmas too. Bye.